What's up, everybody? Jedi Knight Daniel here again, and today we're doing more Clone Wars reviews. I know it's been a while since I posted. I apologize. Unfortunately, life just got in the way. But today we're going to be talking about the other two arcs from Clone Wars Season 7, the Bad Batch arc and the Ahsoka Walkabout arc. So if you're excited to hear my discussions on these, go ahead and leave a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe. We'll have more videos coming out soon, especially with the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. We'll be kind of having a discussion video on why I really enjoyed that movie, and I'm excited that, it's reached, its 40-year anniversary. So anyway, let's begin. So, let's start off with the Bad Batch arc. So these are the first 4 episodes that were released. And the interesting thing about these episodes were that the story had already been told, or had been shown to us through story reels provided by StarWars.com. Back in 2015, I believe it was, the Clone Wars team released the story reels, which was the unfinished animation of this story. And they told us the story was canon, so we didn't need to worry about, when the fans were like, oh, this didn't really happen. No, this story happened. And it was interesting when they were telling us about the stories that they were going to be doing for Season 7, they said we're bringing the Bad Batch arc. And a lot of people were really excited to see the final animation for this, because while we knew what the story was, and everybody seemed to really enjoy the story, we didn't get the finished animation of it, the best looking it could have been. And a lot of people were excited for that. So, February, the series premieres, Season 7 premieres, I think it was the 22nd. And it's the first episode was really, really good. The animation, I remember seeing the animation. I was blown away by how beautiful it looked. And what I also liked what they really did with this arc was it wasn't just the same story reels that we had gotten back in 2015. We got new scenes, new dialogue between the characters, and we got a new kind of, not MacGuffin, but a new reason as to why the clones were going behind going behind enemy lines. Back in the story reels in 2015, it had something to do with an algorithm that Captain Rex made, and in this one, it's something to do with I can't see, it wasn't as memorable in my opinion, and I think it was one of the downsides of the arc was that they changed it from this algorithm. Well, they kind of changed it, and I'll get into that in a minute. And so they go behind enemy lines, and we're introduced to the Bad Batch, which I think was a really, really unique thing to introduce. And also, and then, they go behind enemy lines, and then we get to see them, show off their different skills. I think they're all really, really good. I think Wrecker's probably my least favorite, probably because he's a little more goofy, and I understand it's a kids show, so we need some kind of thing to make the kids go, oh, haha, funny character. But I mean, I think they're all really, really cool characters, and I really would like to see more of them in more Star Wars media in the future. And it's also in this episode that we learn that Echo is alive after he was thought dead at the Citadel. After the shuttle exploded, and then we move on to the next episode, which I think has probably the best added scene, or one of the best scenes in the whole Clone Wars Season 7. And it's the scene where Anakin is talking to Padme. It was really, really nice addition to it. I think the performances by Matt Lanter and I can't remember her name. Oh, this is gonna kill me. Hold on. Let me look up her name real quick. But anyway, they're talking about Catherine Tabor. They did a fantastic job with that scene. And it's also funny to see that Obi-Wan kind of knows, what's going on, and Rex kind of knows as well. I like the scene where they're talking about getting ready to go to Skako Minor, and Anakin's like, we have to go do that thing. And Rex is like, what thing? He's like, And he's like, oh, we don't need to do that. We're fine. We just need to go. And the kid's like, no, this is happening. I just thought that scene was kind of funny. And then after that, we have the scene, and Obi-Wan basically kind of confirms that he knows something's going on between Anakin and Padme. He just doesn't know the specifics of it. So that was kind of, nice to see, and, we also from the scene, we see that had really Anakin felt as though he could have opened up to Obi-Wan about this, maybe the events of Revenge of the Sith wouldn't have happened. So there's that. They go to Skekko Minor action scenes and fighting between clones, which, is fine. And then we see, Echo is, live after they breach the Wat Tambor's facility. I have to say, the progression from Wat Tambor's model in season 1 to season 7, it's almost uncomparable. Like, season 7's is so much more highly detailed that I was blown away by it. They did a phenomenal job. It looked like the movie model that they used for episode 2. It was so detailed. So, I think the second episode is probably my favorite for that scene between Anakin and Padme of that arc. The third episode was a little disappointing because up until this point, there had always been a good amount of change in the episodes from the story reels. Episode 3, there really wasn't that. We did get got a scene taken out where they used the incinerator probe to incinerate one of the locals. We didn't get that in this final version. Then we get one last scene at the end where Echo is talking to Rex about, thank you for coming to save me. But that episode, I mean, it's, it was good. It was a good episode. It probably would have been better had there been more stuff to it. This is also the shortest episode. It's only 18 minutes long. I think it could have been enhanced by some more scenes to make the episode longer. So that's probably why it's my least favorite. I mean, it's not bad by any means, but it's my least favorite of the arc. And then to finish up the arc, we have the last episode where, it's the final battle of Anaxis. They're trying to figure out, now we've got this advantage because we got Echo on our side, and the Separatists don't have his algorithm. So they launch his final attack, and they use, Echo to get on board the control ship to kind of help them out. And the one thing that they added to this was that there's more distrust between the Bad Batch and Echo, which I kind of like because it makes sense because, these guys are, they don't know who Echo is. They just know that he's been held by the Separatists for, a year or so. They don't know where his true loyalties lie. So they have a right to be suspicious. There's that, and then we, see, the battle between the battle of the shipyard, the ship dock, or whatever it is, was done really well. One thing I will complain about, and this is a universe nitpick, and this is a nitpick for me personally, I don't like that they're not using the episode 3 clone pilots. And I get that there's probably some in-universe explanation why they're using the Clone Wars Phase 2 pilots and not the the Revenge of the Sith pilots for the clones. Because in the original the original story reel, they had the episode 3 pilots in the bombers, and this is something that we'll see throughout the rest of the season, especially in the Mandalore arc. We see a lot more of the Phase 2 Clone Wars pilots and not the Revenge of the Sith pilots. I just think it would have been better had we seen those episode 3 pilots, because we're basically in the timeline of episode 3. Again, that's a universe nitpick from me. I just like to see, a little more details, like when that lines up with it. Again, that's just a me complaint. And then, also in the episode we see, Anakin's frustration, as he kills Admiral Trench. And then we see, the victory of Anaxis. And then the other thing that they changed was in the end of the story reel, they have like a big medal ceremony. All the Rex, Echo, the Bad Batch, they all get these medals, and it's like this big thing, and it kind of ends on an ominous note. This one, it's they tell them you're going to be receiving medals, and Bad Batch are like, no, we don't want it. We're just going to go. And Echo's like, oh well, I'll just go with you guys because you got we're all all these clones are different, and they have different mutations and whatnot. And Echo's different, so he feels like that's where he's being called to go to, and I like that. It's finding a new family or new friends who aren't the same exact as you, but have experienced some of the similar things to what you have experienced. So I like that, and I think that the arc itself was pretty good. I liked the Bad Batch arc. I liked being reintroduced to the clone, to the Clone Wars. I liked the animation. Seeing that again was just so nice, and being able to watch the Clone Wars again after it was canceled was really, really nice. So I have to say, Bad Batch arc was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Now we're going to talk about the Ahsoka walkabout arc. And I do have to say, as someone who is somewhat active in the Star Wars community, I keep an eye on how, the fan reactions are to things. This arc was not really well accepted. And I can see why. I was not a huge fan of it myself. But one thing about me is I always try to look for something positive in any form of Star Wars. This especially. I was looking, okay, what will this bring to the larger Star Wars universe? What will it, fill in the blanks for me? Because I'm someone who likes every bit of information, about something. Oh, this leads to this in the storyline. This is why this character does this because of this moment. I like that kind of stuff, or just little things. I will say I was not a huge fan of Trace and Rafa. Their character arcs were a little too, especially Trace was a little too. People brought this up a little too Star Wars Rebels-y for me. I like Star Wars Rebels, but Star Wars Rebels is meant for kids, and there's one scene in specific where I'll talk about this when I get to talking about that episode, where I was just like, no, I can't get behind this character. So anyway, we see the scene of Ahsoka. She's traveling through Coruscant on her speeder bikes as she's going down the hall. This scene was also kind of a story reel that was released. They changed up the character that Ahsoka meets. Instead of Trace, in the story reel, she met some guy, Nick Marcani, I think his name was. And in this one, she meets Trace, and then she kind of gets this first episode is her kind of getting to know Trace and to know her sister Rafa, kind of what they're up to, kind of helping them out while also keeping her secret safe, as she was previously a Jedi. And they have this big thing where they chase after a rogue loader droid, which it's an okay climax. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think. It's, I wasn't, Trace just seemed way too naive to me to be living on for someone who was living on level 13 in the underworld. Rafa was a little too, not mean to her sister, but a little too dismissive of her sister. She was just like, I know what's best. I know what we're doing, whatever, it was just weird. So that episode it was fine. It gets us back introduced to Ahsoka, which I like. Ashley Eckstein has been doing an amazing performance this season. I think she really did a good job with this arc, even though it wasn't my favorite. And then we get to the second episode, and then we start to see, Rafa gets a deal. She has to go run spice from Kessel to, they don't know who they're running. She doesn't tell them who they're running it to. So they get on Trace's ship, and they fly off. There's a nice scene where she doesn't know what she's doing, and she's flying in a military lane behind some Republic gunships. And we know this takes place before the Bad Batch arc because, Anakin and Obi-Wan have been in the Outer Rim sieges uh, since, they'll continue to be. They've been in the Outer Rim sieges for a while. They haven't been back to Coruscant, and they won't be back to Coruscant because it'll lead right up to Episode 3, where he tells her, Anakin tells Padme in Episode 3, I thought, I would never be able to leave the Outer Rim sieges had it not been for the Chancellor. So we know that this takes place before, because he wouldn't have returned to Coruscant, because he would still be in the Outer Rim regions, or Outer Reaches. So anyway, that was a nice scene where he kind of senses Ahsoka, and after the alarm's like, oh, do we pull him over? Do we arrest him for flying in this lane? And it's like, no, just let him go. It mirrors the scene from Episode 6 where Vader senses Luke on the shuttle, and he's just like, let him pass. Excuse me. And so that was a nice scene. And another thing I liked was we got to see another side of Kessel, like the nice green, living side of Kessel. Because we saw like the buying portion of it in Solo, which, maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. How my thoughts on Solo, I just like seeing a different side of Kessel. And then the scene that I didn't like at all was, so they've got the spice from Kessel. They make a scene. It's like, oh, they're using human labor instead of droid labor. It's like, oh, we have to do the Star Wars thing. Slavery bad. We get it. And they're having an argument on the ship. I believe Rafa finally tells them that they're going to deliver to Mark Krim and the Pikes. They may have been told it at the King's Palace on Kessel. And Ahsoka's like, we can't deliver to them. Like, they're criminals. They're criminals. They're going to use this as going to harm people. And she and Rafa are arguing back and forth about this. And Rafa's like, if we don't do this, then, they'll take, Trace, the ship, Trace gets freaked out. They're not taking my ship. They're not taking my ship, blah, 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 blah. And while Ahsoka and Rafa are arguing, she dumps the spice. And I'm like, excuse me? Okay, that was a little too just random. Like, how do you just randomly dump the spice that you've been carrying after you were told that it was for a galactic crime boss? Like, and the fact that these girls didn't even know who Mark Krim was, like, do they not live in the underworlds of Coruscant? Like, I was just like, a little more continuity, please? Like, they've been living in the underworld for, it seems like, a little while. Like, they should know about these big crime families and crime lords across the galaxy. Because, Coruscant on the underside is just riddled with criminals. Like, you would think that they would know that. So that was just I was just like, oh, come on. And then they try to trick him into taking the empty containers. Ahsoka uses a mind trick. They end up getting put in prison by the Pikes. And that's the end of that episode. I was just like, that one scene and just their ineptitude when it comes to these, not knowing the larger galaxy around them. I get they live on Coruscant, whatever. But, I just was not a huge fan of that. So yeah, that episode ends there. The next episode picks up there in prison. Rafa gets tortured trying to get the information of where the spice is. And then Trace, they try torturing Trace for the information. And Ahsoka's kind of talking to them. She learns that the reason they're living in the underworld is because when the Jedi were chasing Cad Bane, after he broke Zero the Hutt out of jail, a speeder crashed into, instead of the Jedi forced a speeder that was on a collision course with a platform with a ton of people into the side of a building to kill less people. And it ended up killing. It was actually Trace and Rafa's place that they were living with their parents, and the speeder crash killed their parents. And then we learned there were Luminara Unduli came up, after to try and help them as the Jedi do. She was like, she didn't really offer any comfort to them. She was kind of a, just not a great person. Not great help to them. That was kind of nice because we get to kind of see this, distance that the Jedi have with the common people that they really shouldn't be having. So that was nice. And then we get to my least favorite part of this arc. And it's Trace's escape from the Pikes. So she gets into the torture room, she fakes faints, she pushes over the guards and shoots them, stuns them, I can't remember. And then she goes running through the Pike cell block, yelling like a maniac, going, ah! Like running around. I was like, okay, this is a little more Star Wars Rebels. This seems like something that would happen in Star Wars Rebels, not Star Wars The Clone Wars. I was just like, really? Whatever. So anyway, they escape. They end up getting out of the Pike prison cell. They end up going into the city, in Obadiah, and they run into, as they're running from the law, we see Ursa Wren sees Ahsoka, and she reports to Bo-Katan, who's on the planet. We learn from the Mandalore or Siege of Mandalore arc that they were there looking for information that would lead them to Maul. So they report back, and Ahsoka, they're trying to get Ahsoka and the girls are trying to get a ship off the planet. And there's a really, really nice scene. I will give the episode credit. There's a really, really nice fight scene between Ahsoka and some Pike guards in a tower. They really animated it really, really nice. I think they did a good job. And then there's that. They end up getting captured again. So basically this episode was for character development, not pushing the story along. Which, again, it's fine. I like character development. But you should push the story along with the character development. Like, they ended up back in the place where they started at the beginning of the episode. I get that mentally they're not in the same place where they started. But it just was like, well, what was the point of this whole episode if they just ended up in the cell? They could have had a heart-to-heart in the cell. Like, okay, whatever. So then we get to the final episode. She convinces, Ahsoka, Trace, and Rafa are brought before Mark Krim. Ahsoka convinces Mark Krim that she, to let the girls go while she stays prisoner there. She says she was using them or something to basically get the girls to let them go. Pikes think they're going to get the spice, but really Ahsoka's trying to get them to leave. When they do that, then Ahsoka escapes and she's kind of going around the Pikes facility, and she runs into Mark Krim talking with Maul, which was a nice scene. I did like that scene. Where Maul's kind of talking to them and he's threatening him. He's like, oh, Crimson Dawn, and if you're not careful, Crimson Dawn's going to take over your operation if you don't follow what I've been telling you. And then he kind of senses Ahsoka, and he kind of looks over at the production facility, and of course she's hiding behind something. And then she goes, and she's going to blow up the facility. And she ends up getting herself captured and reveals herself to the Pikes as a Jedi, or a Force user who they think is an undercover Jedi. And during this time, we also have more Trace and Rafa fun times as they go to steal the spice from the Pikes to give back to the Pikes. Whatever, and they kind of have a Star Wars Rebels-y fight scene with a Trandoshan, manager over this spice facility. Whatever, it's fine. And then they come back for Ahsoka, and they end up escaping, and they're followed by Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians. And then Ahsoka, Trace, and Rafa, they fly back to Coruscant, they land in the shop. Bo-Katan comes in, and she's like, oh, I need your help, Ahsoka. You've got 5 minutes to decide. Which I wasn't like, okay, this feels a little too quick to end the episode. Like, we need to have Ahsoka with the Mandalorians. Hurry. Like, end the episode with her, immediately joining the Mandalorians. No hesitation, Because it's not like the last time she ran into them, they were trying to kill her or anything. Okay, whatever. So anyway, while there was some stuff I didn't like about this arc, there is some stuff I did. One, I liked how we got to see a galactic citizen's perspective on the Jedi and how they think that the Jedi have fallen. Two, we got to see a new kind of side of Kessel, which I really, really liked. Three, I really like to see how the interactions between the crime syndicates and Maul were going on. How Maul is puppeteering them from behind the scenes. And finally, the animation was again spectacular. Also, another thing, I get that they like to use alien, like when they put alien like background characters in the show. I get that they like using old Kenner toys as references, but can we stop with the Kenner toy references? I get it's Kenner toys. It's, oh my gosh, it's this big deal when the Star Wars came out. It reminds me of Star Wars. Like, we can see other outfits for aliens like Aqualish and Rhodians and Thorians. Like, can we see some variations in outfits, please? Thank you. So again, that's just another nitpick from me, though. But overall, it was fine. It was a good arc. I don't hate it. There's some stuff I dislike in it, but I don't hate the arc. I just think it could have been handled better. And then, of course, we've talked about the last arc, which I think did a phenomenal job. If you want to see what my thoughts on that arc were, click the link in the description. There'll be a playlist taking you to the episode reviews for the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars. You can go there and watch what my thoughts on each episode were. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this discussion video, go ahead and leave a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Let me know what you guys thought of these arcs down in the comment section down below. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys, your opinions are on these episodes. So anyway, that'll do it from me. Stay tuned for more videos coming up in the future. We'll probably do a final Clone Wars wrap-up video, and then we'll do we're also going to do a throwback to the Empire Strikes Back video celebrating the 40-year anniversary. So stay tuned for those videos. But that's going to do it for me. Have an awesome day, everybody, and may the Force be with you.